Welcome to Sweet Tea and Tacos. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jen.
And we kind of talked about a food trip we just took. Road trip turned into a food trip. Mm-hmm. We talked about how a lot of our trips turn into food trips. But we did actually, there was a time in we were first married, we actually did take this is a foodie trip.
Yes, it definitely was. And so it's been many years ago. Because we've been married 24 years.
Yeah.
This was probably, I don't know, we had been married about a year, I guess. Mm-hmm. So a long time ago. But we were just going to kind of stroll down memory lane and talk about it. Because we just have great memories.
We still look back on that trip, yeah.
And I don't know, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah. So, like you said, we'd only been married a year or two at this point, and we were trying to decide. And of course, we met, and we've talked about our story about how we met. With about a lot of our dates were cooking, and we met around cooking. So a lot of our life has been around cooking
we
and
actually
food.
Met, working together at a cookware kind of gourmet cookware store.
Yeah,
right.
And so we decided, hey, we might want to go to culinary school.
Yeah. Well, we were really focused more on you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we thought, well, hey, we can't really know if we want to do this unless we tour the schools.
Right.
So let's go up to an area where there's several schools and just check them out, which that was like kind of the New York, New England area.
Yeah. So we flew to Boston. Mm-hmm. Now, you had actually spent some time in Massachusetts.
Right. And went to Boston a lot. So I was pretty familiar with that city.
So we flew into Boston. Mm-hmm. Now, our flight was a little bit late. Now, at this time, there was a thing going on in Boston called the Big Dig.
Right. It was this huge kind of construction, I guess sort of, I don't know, if they dealt with their
tunnels and all this stuff.
Exits and highways and bridges and everything.
So we had attempted to get in so that we would not hit like 5 o'clock traffic on a Friday. And
but unfortunately
we hit 5 o'clock traffic on a Friday. Yeah. It was perfect. And
you had a headache.
I had a headache and it was just, So then we were going to have dinner at this place.
Yeah. Where I had eaten before.
Yes.
And, it was actually called No Names.
No Names.
And I don't know if it's still there or not.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting name. So it was like,
once we got through the traffic, it's over by the harbor.
Yeah.
And we're in, we can't find it.
Right. And there's like no signage.
Because, it's No Names.
Yeah. And we had to park. And then we're like going around and asking people, hey, we're looking for this restaurant. And they're like, well, what's the name? And we're saying it's No Names. And they think we're crazy. So
that was interesting. We finally did get there.
We did.
It was good.
It was okay. Yeah. It wasn't quite maybe as good as I had remembered.
Yeah. So then,
but it was
still good.
Seafood
and you're right on the water.
Oh, yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So then we drove our next stop the next day.
Well, we stayed the night.
Well, yeah. Our next stop the next day was going to be New York. So we drove halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so we stayed the night in Connecticut.
Yeah. And we had an appointment at the French Culinary Institute in New York City. Now, it's no longer there. It's called the International Culinary Center. But we had an appointment to tour and everything. So we drove into New York City.
Yeah, I think
which was interesting for my first time driving in New York City.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I think I had been to New York, once before just for the day.
Right.
And I don't remember where we parked. Like maybe
we just found a parking lot.
Had a parking meter or something.
Yeah. And then we went to a art museum. We had some time to kill.
Right. Well, before that though, we ate lunch at this place called Dean and DeLuca.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
which was kind of a gourmet like cooking store and grocery, and I mean some of y'all may remember Dean and DeLuca, but
it was kind of on the scale, I guess, of like a Williams Sonoma almost, but maybe not as much kind of cookware and appliances, but more like gourmet food.
Right.
And then they had this
fresh food
kind of lunch counter, or not. That's not a good way to describe it. Almost like a deli or something. Yeah. So
we ate a couple sandwiches there in SoHo and went to a museum.
Yeah. It was like a branch of the MoMA.
The MoMA
in SoHo. Yeah.
MoMA and SoHo.
Yeah, say that really fast.
And then we went to the French Culinary Institute and toured that.
Yep.
And really interesting tour. And you got to kind of see all the areas. And, of course, I told you about all the programs. And then we got to eat dinner in the restaurant, which was
that was part of the tour.
Phenomenal.
It was. And so the students, they work in the restaurant. I mean, that's part of your training. Yep. And we just had a fantastic meal. And you and I both got different things. I've got it all written down somewhere. Right. I'd kind of kept a journal about this trip. And we were looking for it because we wanted to pull it out and reference, but can't find it.
We'll find it. So then that night, we ended up driving... didn't get all the way to Poughkeepsie, but I can't remember where we stayed, but it was outside of Poughkeepsie. And Poughkeepsie is where the Culinary Institute of America is.
The CIA.
The CIA.
And that's like upstate New York.
Yeah. And it's like the Harvard of culinary schools. I mean, just looking at the campus, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it looks like a Harvard or an Ivy League college.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
But it was a big preview day, so there was more than just us on a tour. It was a huge group of people.
Oh, yeah. And I think we got broken into tour groups and all of that. And we went around to kind of all of the, I don't know if it was called schools or what.
Right, but different areas.
And then they treated us to lunch.
Right.
I don't remember what we had, but it was good.
I remember we were going through one of the baking areas, and some girl came out with like a tray of pretzels and started handing out some fresh pretzels. Oh, okay. But yeah, that was cool.
I don't remember that at all.
Super cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah. And long day there. Then we, so we kind of were splitting the trip up a little bit, and we had a couple days we were just going to do non-culinary school things.
Yeah, but you got to tell about the coffee.
I'm telling about the coffee. So we were driving from Poughkeepsie we had a B&B in Arlington, Vermont that night. So after the end of the day, we grabbed some Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Now, at the time, we didn't have them down here.
They were just kind of in other parts of the country. But I think they were founded in New England. Yeah. And when I had lived up there, I loved Dunkin' Donuts, and I loved their coffee. And so... I went in, Dave parked the car. We had like a rental car, and went in and ordered 2 regular coffees. Yeah. And I don't know why I had not picked up on this when I lived there, but I just meant like I wanted caffeine. I didn't want decaf.
Decaf, right.
And apparently a regular coffee in New England means like what?
Cream and 2 sugars. Yeah. So what's it do when you get to the car?
Yeah. So I brought them back to the car. I think I had one of those cup holder things, and we opened it up, and there's like already cream in it. And we were like, "What's going on here?" And so I went back in and asked, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you ordered a regular," and it's like
cream and 2 sugars. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know. Sweet. And we learned something new.
Yeah. We just laughed about that. Did. I mean, we just didn't know.
Right. So then we were driving to our B&B in Arlington, Vermont, which is not exactly in the southwest corner, but it's in the southwest of the state. And came across, we're just driving. We didn't really think about it, but there's a tea manufacturer called Harney and Sons. And they had a tasting room in Salisbury, Connecticut. And we were driving, just beautiful area while we're headed to Vermont. And lo and behold, here's Harney and Sons tasting room.
Yeah, we just like saw the sign, and we knew of Harney.
Yep.
We were like, hey, let's just pull in and stop. So it was this small building, very nondescript. Went in, and
we were the only ones there.
Yeah, it's really well done tea tasting room, and you could taste pretty much anything. They just pull anything off the shelf for you. And pour some hot water and brew it.
Or they have this cool little tea tasting cup that they use, where it's like a ceramic liner. And so she'd put a little bit of tea in there. She'd pour the water on it, pull the liner out. Here you go. And we just keep, however. But it was fun time.
Yeah, and they were really nice. And we just got to kind of visit and talk about tea. And I don't know, it was just a cool experience.
So then we continued on to our B&B that night, and then the next...
Oh, and we ate there. I think they had a restaurant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
And it was really good food.
I don't remember.
I know. I wish I could tell you what we ate.
And then, so we continued on to the BME, got up the next morning, and we were driving basically the length of Vermont.
Which is not that far.
It's not that far.
It's kind of a small state.
And our goal that night was going to be Stowe, Vermont. So we were driving. We had a nice little stop at one point and a little store and got some sandwiches right on this river. And there was rocks and a small little waterfall.
Yeah, it was so picturesque.
So beautiful up there.
It was just like
even
this,
in the spring. This was in May.
Kind of white,
right?
Cladded, just like wooden building that was sort of like a grocery, but it had sandwiches and stuff. And then we just went out on a picnic table and sat by the river. I don't know. It's just it was like a moment.
Yeah, you hear about New England in the fall, but New England even in the summer was beautiful.
Yeah,
because this was in May. Yeah, and so
which really that was kind of more the spring.
That was more spring.
Yeah.
And we're still, of course, we're still headed up to the Stowe, Burlington area. And then somewhere we got a picture, there's a big waterfall. And I remember there's some guys selling maple syrup, I mean, probably,
just on the side of the road.
Probably a touristy Trapp thing, but who knows,
Yeah.
And then we actually stayed at the Trapp Lodge outside of Stowe, Vermont. We had 2 nights at the Trapp Lodge.
Yeah.
And so it is the Von Trapps from The Sound of Music.
Yep.
That family.
When they settled in Vermont, they had a music school, I think, in maybe Austria. But of course, they sang and all that. And I think so it started maybe as a music school in Vermont, and then it ended up burning or something, and they rebuilt, and then it became kind of just, a hotel, more of a hotel type thing.
And it's just on this mountain, and it's just beautiful. I mean, it's out in the middle by itself, and
you feel like you're almost in
Austria,
and everything is kind of that German Bavarian style architecture, and just the natural wood. I don't know how to describe all that.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. We'd love to go in the winter, but it was in the spring. It was just beautiful. Green. Of course, they call it the Green River.
It's the Green Mountain State.
The Green Mountain State. It is. It's green. So I remember though we had dinner. They have a great restaurant there, and so they have a 3-course and a 5-course, and I don't know what we were thinking. I'll just start with that. We decided we'll do the 5-course.
Yeah, because we wanted to try more.
We want to try things, and you're into the 3-course, going, oh, what did I do?
Yeah,
and I mean it was.
I don't even remember what all the courses were.
I know I got schnitzel at one point. It was that meal. The next day, we definitely did a 3-course.
Yeah, we were like, the next night, we were like,
no.
we cannot handle 5 courses.
No.
But the food was fantastic.
It was absolutely fantastic.
And I remember there was a sommelier that came around.
Right.
He discussed, your wine choice, and that was really cool. And the breakfast was nice. It was kind of a continental style breakfast, but they had like all kinds of pastries and yogurt and granola. And you remember those cookies that we had?
And they had a little afternoon tea and cookies.
Yeah.
And then they were these little thumbprint cookies.
They were like these kind of chocolate crinkle cookies that were dusted with powdered sugar. Oh my gosh, they were so good. And
they had a little tea room down the street. You can go down to this. It was like a bakery / tea room / restaurant.
And I think they just had kind of simple meals, like maybe some soup and sandwich, and like you said, coffee and tea.
Yeah. And then, so we were there for 2 nights. So one day we drove down into Stowe,
which is a big like
ski area.
Yeah.
And there was this kind of a touristy stop.
I mean, not like tacky tourists.
No, and I'm going to tell on myself.
Okay.
And so we went in there, and they had coffee and cheese.
Yeah, kind of different vendors.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking, and you were like, well, you want some coffee? And I'm like, yeah.
And this was way back.
This is way back.
And so it's that Green Mountain coffee.
Early 2000s. I mean, late night.
Yeah.
Green Mountain Coffee,
and
which is very famous.
You could not get it.
I've never seen it before. Never heard of it before.
You could not get it anywhere else. Like, you could order it from the catalog, or you could buy it in Vermont.
They had Lake Champlain chocolates. They had Cabot cheese. They had Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They had Green Mountain Coffee, and I can't remember what else. They had all this everything food-wise Vermont they had.
Yep.
And I'm like, coffee from Vermont? I don't know about this. And of course, we get back, and you're like, look.
I was like, see?
See? You should have gotten some. Yeah, you're right. So
anyway, it was just funny.
I kind of she likes to save that on me. Yeah. But great 2 days at the Trapp Lodge. Just really enjoyed it.
Oh, it was
just
fantastic.
Gorgeous. Yeah. And we wanted to stay longer, but so we were then headed back to Boston, and we were we flew into Boston originally, just had that one dinner, but we actually had a couple of nights in Boston. We were going to stay on the back end of the trip. So we're leaving Trapp Lodge. We had a tour scheduled at the New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier, which is no longer around
that
either.
School is no longer that school either.
We toured that school, and I had a good tour there.
Was it Montpelier or Burlington?
It's Montpelier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then on the way from there to Boston, we were trucking along, and again, we hadn't really planned all of this fully through like we would now. But King Arthur Baking Company is right there. It's in
I think it's
Norwich, Vermont.
I think it used to be in New Hampshire.
Yes.
And we went to it in
New Hampshire. Right. They're in Norwich, Vermont now, but this was in the New Hampshire. We were headed from Vermont back to Boston. And stopped into the King Arthur store and had a great time. And
Yeah, because we had, gotten their catalog and just, we
Knew
were
about King
familiar
Arthur,
with their flour and all that. So that was like a cool kind of serendipitous thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like with the Harney tea.
Yes.
I mean, this was before everybody could just hop on the
internet, right?
We didn't have, iPhones.
Quite as much,
So
we're dating ourselves.
Boy, are we.
So then we continued on to Boston, and we had done a little research, and we stayed at this place in Boston. Now, the funny thing was, I've been to Boston twice in my lifetime, and I've been in May both times. And if you know anything about Boston, which obviously I didn't, now one of those was from work, wasn't my choice to go at that time.
They have a jillion.
There's a lot of colleges. What happens in May? Graduation. So, we were looking for hotel rooms, and there wasn't a lot available. And finally, we found this one place. It was I don't even know.
It's called like a boarding house.
Boarding house almost. Yeah, it was Beacon Street. And it was an interesting time. It was very crowded in Boston.
Very crowded. And, nothing against this little place that we found, but it just wasn't quite exactly what we expected.
No.
So we thought, well, let's just get another hotel room. Or,
right. We were going to find something else.
Just some chain, whatever, Holiday Inn or something.
Yeah,
we were calling around and calling around. There was nothing. And we were thinking, what is the deal?
And that was the deal.
And then we found out or realized later, it's graduation and everybody and their brother is
there. Yeah, exactly. So,
but there was a huge advantage.
Yes.
Of staying at that little boarding house or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Which was
so we decided we needed to do some laundry before we headed home.
Yes.
And so we go down the street. We asked them at the front desk, there's some laundry right down the street. There's a deli right next door.
Yeah. We also asked where could we get breakfast. Right. And they said, right next door, there's this really good place called the Eagles Deli. And it's called that because of the Boston University Eagles.
Phenomenal.
Oh my gosh. We still talk about
it. I got a t-shirt. And we had bagels, and it was a great experience. And,
it wasn't just bagels, but wasn't there toasters? Something was broken.
They did them on the flat top.
And they gave us
2 pounds of cream cheese.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Cheese per bagel. Yeah. And then eggs and all this. And man, we were just, it was such kind of simple food.
But it was great.
So good. And so they also had this thing, which is what you got the t-shirt about.
Godzilla burger.
Yeah, it was like a food eating
contest thing. Contest.
And
I didn't do that. No.
Eat the Godzilla burger, you would
get your picture on the wall or something.
Or get $25.
But anyway, it was just a fun experience, a neat find.
Yeah, it said home of the Godzilla burger.
Yeah. You got to get a t-shirt that says home of the Godzilla burger.
Yeah, and then it had a picture of Godzilla.
Right. And then we did stuff in Boston all day that day. And so we decided we were going to, I don't know if it was that night, what night it was. The night before we left, we were headed home. All I remember is we were going to get some Italian food in Boston. So we were trying to figure out, okay, where did we go? We found this place. Do you remember the name of it?
Vinny's.
Vinny's.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of those in Boston.
I think this one might have been like a chain or a local chain or something.
So we go in and we order, and she's like, well, it's family style. Okay. Didn't quite understand what that meant. And I think you got eggplant parm. Yep. I got something. I can't remember what I got. And they came out and we're like, oh, no. We've done it again.
Yeah. And so much food.
So much. And then, of course, she's like, can I box it up for you? And we're like,
no, we don't even have a refrigerator in our little
we're flying away in the morning
room.
But I do remember they had this like super big bottle of wine that was empty, and they put these numbers in there, and they shook it up, and if you picked a number, if they pulled it out, your dinner was free. I mean, it was just like with everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we got cannolis. We did get cannolis, dessert, and they were fantastic.
Yeah. So
it was just it was an experience.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we took the tea. We rode around,
and we went on the Freedom Trail too.
We did. We went on the Freedom Trail. So that was our day. During the day, we walked the Freedom Trail. We ate lunch at Faneuil Hall.
Faneuil Hall, which is a really old. Mm-hmm. Well, was it Durgan Park?
It was Durgan Park,
and it was right by Faneuil.
It's right. It's in Faneuil Hall.
Yeah, and it's a really, really old
restaurant. Had clam chowder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. And then of course we walked all that off on the Freedom Trail.
Yeah,
yeah.
We went in like a little kind of Italian grocery, mm-hmm. and I think we went in Paul Revere's house.
We did tour that. Yeah. And the Old North Church. Mm-hmm. We did that.
Yep.
Yeah, just a great time. And saw, of course, a lot of famous graveyards, Sam Adams,
all
of that.
Yeah. And, like, there are people buried there from, they were on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just a great trip. It was that was our first foodie trip without knowing what we were really doing. I mean, we knew but now we're so much more like planning those after that.
Well, and it's so much easier these days because, like we went to London on our honeymoon. We had these things, kind of like a Michelin guide or a Zagat guide.
Right.
So we could pick out a few restaurants that we might want to go to and everything.
That's a whole nother trip we need to talk about.
So much easier now.
Yeah, it is very much. So London, that was a trip.
Yeah, it was. We'll have to talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But anyway, really, really cool experience in New England and New York City, upstate New York.
And it was interesting to me, too, touring the culinary schools, and kind of the difference in them, like the French Culinary Institute was a shorter program. I think they had 1 year. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was, and then their big thing was, 1 year and then you work in restaurants. Yeah. That was and so they really taught you the mechanical, but the rest of it you were going to learn on the job.
Right.
And then the Culinary Institute of America.
I think it was 2 years?
2 and 4.
Oh,
they have 4-year
programs.
They
have a 4?
Yeah. Okay. And they have several things. They have, like the French Culinary Institute at the time, I think it was baking or culinary.
It was, you had to kind of pick your track.
Yeah. Now what the International Culinary Center now has a lot more programs. Okay. Wine programs and management, behind front of house and back house, so. Yeah. And that's kind of how the CIA was. Of course, they had the 4-year programs, which were, a lot of everything. And then you had some shorter ones that were more specific. And then you had ones that were just the management side,
Oh, yeah. Kind of management, hospitality.
Hospitality side. Yeah. And then the New England Culinary Institute, it was interesting. It was very different.
It was a smaller school, much smaller, program.
Yeah. But they were more, to me, more like large operation. Like if you were going to be a chef on a cruise ship or a big thing like that, to me it was more. But the food was really good. I remember we got some lunch in one of their restaurants, and it was or a snack or something. I don't know, but it was really good. The baked goods were great. The coffee was great. The food was good. But it was more. I don't want to use the word cafeteria, but I mean whatever that phrase is, where it's large scale. Yeah. Instead of more just restaurant oriented, it was more, I don't know what the term for that is, but it was good. It was neat. And Montpelier is a beautiful town.
Oh,
and it was gorgeous,
beautiful.
so.
Yeah.
But all in all, we ended up decided to we wanted to have kids first.
Yeah. Well, it was just kind of time. We didn't get married late, but I mean, we were almost 27.
Yeah, almost 27.
And we just figured, we need to kind of go ahead and try to start a family. And so we put all that on the back burner or on hold, and it's still kind of a dream.
Yeah.
And we may both try to do it one of these days.
And what's interesting now is like, I mean, there's so much online stuff, but there's also programs. The Culinary Institute of America has opened a campus in San Antonio. At the time, I think there was just California and New York. But then there's also shorter programs, like not just a year, but there's you can take a 1 week thing, or they offer, because so many people are just enthusiasts now of cooking. Right. They offer weekend classes for whoever. Yeah. To me, that's kind of cool,
Very much so.
Yeah.
And then I think there's some programs in New Orleans,
Yes.
We've talked about as well. So, yeah, it's something we really
But that was one of our favorite ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And my goal is to, next time I go to Boston, not go in May.
Yeah, especially not that graduation
weekend. Graduation weekend, yeah. So this last time I was up there for work, and I landed at the airport, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It was just really busy.
And you called me and told me how many people there were. And I said, I think it must be that same weekend that we went years ago.
So I'm trying to catch
I bet it's graduation.
Yeah, this bus to the my hotel, the little train or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people here. I mean, I've been to some big cities. I mean, I was in LA earlier in the year. I mean, I've been to Miami. I mean, this just seems like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was in the theater district. And so I get up the next morning to go to work, and there's 800 people down the sidewalk. I'm thinking, yep, that's a graduation.
Yeah.
At one of the theaters right across the street from the hotel. But it was crazy. So, yeah, twice, and that's my record, 2 for 2 right now. Graduation weekends in Boston. So, beautiful time to go, though, the weather. And I was talking to some of the guys that were from Boston. They're like, yeah, it's beautiful for the weather.
Yeah.
And the Uber driver, it's gorgeous. But as far as all the stuff going on, I think the Celtics were in the playoffs, and I think T-Swift was nearby. I mean, it was not a good weekend for
just trying to get around.
So, I had a little inkling in my head I might try to go do something. And that as soon as I landed and saw all the people, I was like, nope. Ordering in. Yeah. Going to work. Going back. That's it. That's all I'm doing. But no, I had even thought about trying to go over to Eagles Deli if I had time.
Oh, wow.
That would have been fun.
I wonder if it's still there.
It's still there.
Is it?
It's still there.
Oh, I'd love to go back.
Yeah, so, we mentioned Durgan Park. It's a famous restaurant in Faneuil Hall in Boston. We also mentioned No Name seafood restaurant in Boston. Both of those restaurants have closed. Durgan Park, actually, there was a restaurant on its location in 1742. And Durgan Park started itself in 1827. And then No Name started in 1917. So it's been kind of a tough couple of years for restaurants, especially historic, older ones. And, folks, just try to support those. They're historic landmarks, and they do a lot to add to our food culture. So support your local restaurant if you can. So, that's kind of our one of our big first foodie trips, and I don't think we've had that one that big.
Probably
since,
not. No,
but
this one came close.
It was close.
This one with the Louisiana and the Texas and stuff. So and hopefully, we can
many more.
Keep doing more. Yeah. So thanks for listening. And
as always, this is Dave with Sweet Tea and Tacos,
and I'm Jen.
You can find us in all your podcast directories. Go to our website, sweetteaandtacos.com. We post blogs, refresh the pictures. You can also share that, and it helps some other folks discover us. So, we'd love that. Hey, leave us a review. That helps, too.
Yeah.
That helps other people find us.
Well, and honestly, we'd love some more followers on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if you follow us on Facebook, encourage your friends
share with somebody
to like our page.
Never hurts to hit share on one of those, And also, we have a new support tab on our website. And so if you ever consider, you like what you're listening to, help us do some more things. And we're trying to get out some more interviews. We've got some stuff coming up, some more scheduled and ready to go. And anyway, we do appreciate it. And yeah, so keep on cooking.
All right.